Welcome back to part 2 of our pop-up interviews from Malice Domestic. On this week's episode, we will have interviews with Charlaine Harris, Leslie Karst, and last but definitely not least, Laurie R. King. Enjoy!
I'm Ann Dart.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome.
If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you. We would like to welcome to the program Charlaine Harris, and I don't think she needs an introduction. For those of us who may have lived in a cave, she has so many series, and she had some TV programs. So what is Charlaine up to now?
Well, primarily I'm a grandmother. Right now I'm working on the 5th book in the Gunny Rose series. The 4th one will come out in November. It's called A Serpent in Heaven. And the 5th one has no title yet, but I'm having a great time working on it. I love changing things around, as you probably have realized if you've seen
Wow, she spans like...
I think if you're scared of something, you should do it.
Oh, I love that.
After I wrote conventional mysteries for a while, I decided to write something with every element of the supernatural in it I could imagine. And that was a lot of fun and worked out really well for me.
That was Sookie.
Sookie, yeah. And then I wrote the Midnight Texas books. There were only 3, sadly. And then
Aurora Tea Garden.
The Aurora Tea Garden, yeah. That was my first series. I wrote 2 standalones, and then I started the Aurora books because my mother was a librarian. Oh. And I had this idea that if I wrote about a librarian, libraries would buy the book. And that turned out to be accurate.
Oh, wow. Wise mother.
So really, libraries kept that book alive and engendered more. And I really enjoyed writing them. Her character is probably the closest to my own character of any of the ones I've written.
One question I've always wanted to ask you, were you happy with the True Blood series?
Happy all the way to the bank.
That's right. I love it.
Really, when you sign over characters to be adapted, that is the end of your involvement, truly. I mean,
you have to lose.
They have you on the set and they do your picture with the actors and that is all very informational and delightful and so different from anything I ever thought I would have. I did a red carpet. So scary. But, a new skill.
I thought the casting was...
And the casting was amazing. Yeah, the music was amazing. The script.
Oh, I love the theme song. I think I still have it on my playlist.
And that guy is the nicest guy.
Really?
He is so... but it was all a learning curve. Of course, some things I was less happy about. Some things I was very happy about. But in the end, it was their vision of my work, not my vision of my work.
That's true. Could you give our listeners a little elevator pitch of your new series so they can learn a little more about that?
For the past few years, I've been writing the Gunny Rose series. Gunny is a woman who is a professional shooter. She is a protector. She gets hired to protect cargo of all kinds, human and goods.
Right now.
It is. And that's her job. She's very young, but that is her skill. And in America that's broken apart into 5 different countries, she has to use her sellable skill. And these books are set in the 1930s. So lots of research. but fun, interesting. I enjoy writing her. She started as a short story, and then I thought, I think I could write a whole book about this character. And I did, and Saga Press took it, a division of Simon & Schuster. And so now I'm on my 5th book.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. So you really like to challenge your brain cells to go in different directions. That's amazing, because I think some writers get pigeonholed into this. They're just kind of writing by rote.
Well, that's certainly possible, and I respect the viewpoint that you have to do what sells.
That is
because,
true.
We all need to make a living.
Right.
But I also know that to keep myself in the game, this is what I have to do.
Yeah, very true. Well, Charlaine, it was such a pleasure to have you on. Can you give our listeners your website so they can find, if they have never heard of you, your books and your...
I'm approachable on Facebook on my professional page, and I have a website, which is just www.charlaineharris.com. Not afraid to be obvious. Also, I'm accessible on Twitter at Real Charlaine. Real Charlaine, because weirdly, there are a lot of fake Charlaines.
You could probably write a book about that.
I don't even want to delve into that.
Yeah.
That is weird.
Yeah. Trying to take credit for your...
I don't know what they're trying to do. That's like beyond me.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
We're thrilled to introduce Leslie Karst, who writes the Sally Solari mystery series. And we join Leslie as she tells us how many times she's come to Malice.
How many years and how many times is a different answer because of, the COVID. Yeah.
The dark times.
The dark times. But I don't know. I think maybe 6 or 7. Because I came right before my first book came out, and I think it came out in 2015 or 16. Am I doing the math right? A few. I've been around this rodeo, but not like not like the faithful few. No.
We have a book club, mystery book club, where we started getting interested in, we've always been interested in mysteries, but we didn't even hear about Malice until a couple years ago, right before the one we came to. So it's not widely known. I don't know.
I think, I don't know. I'm not sure how you would find out about it if you weren't already in the milieu, because I heard about it because once I got a publisher and started talking to other mystery authors. I think I heard about it because I went to the California Crime Writers Conference, which happens every other year in Los Angeles. It was when I was just writing my first book, and I think I must have heard about it there.
It was just a curiosity.
It's amazing. We interview, I don't want to say they're necessarily first-time authors, but they're new to the genre. And we always ask, have you been... What's Malice? I'm really curious about how many people do not. I
think they probably have ads in things like Mystery Scene magazine and that kind of sort of thing. So if you're a mystery reader, you might read about it. But I'm not sure it's a good question.
And I was curiosity.
I love that it's called that because and once you've been to it a few times, you just sort of throw the word around, I'm going to Malice. And Malice is great. And if somebody's eavesdropping on you, Malice was terrific this year. And they're like, what? And I love that. It's like a secret.
Yeah. So if you had to pick the best piece of advice you've gotten from...
Best piece of advice I've ever gotten at Malice or just in general?
Let's stick with Malice.
I was going to say, though, I'm probably, whether I can remember where I heard it is a question. So I can pretend I heard it at Malice. Best piece of advice. Well, when I was pitching, the best advice I got was don't give up. And this is the advice I give people. Don't give up. It took me over 120 queries before I got an agent that was interested in my manuscript. And that was just because of the timing. It happened to land on her desk right around the time she'd gotten news from Crooked Lane that they were looking for that kind of a book, and they happened at the same time, and so it's the way, agents have only so many clients. They don't take very many new people very often, and a lot of it's really just luck. You have to have a good work. There are many more good manuscripts than there are agents, and so just keep persevere. I think that's at that point, for that aspect of it, that's the advice that I would give. It's easy to give up. I almost gave up.
Well, I think the most wonderful thing about Leslie is she not only has a mystery book, she has some other interesting stories to tell about some pretty famous people.
One in particular.
Yes. Well, okay. In addition to my Sally Solari, for those who don't know me.
We're going to get to that.
Yeah, I have this mystery series. But it's true. It's not for a year though, so don't get too, hold your horses there. But I did just get the cover for it, and I'm really excited. And it's in copy edits right now. And it's a memoir of the dinner I cooked, as well as the months of preparation and obsession regarding a dinner that I was lucky enough to get to cook for Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her charming and dapper husband, Marty, some years back. And it's called Justice is Served, A Tale of Scallops, the Law, and Cooking for RBG. I'm very excited about that.
That's a must read.
Yes, I think so.
I
And it's sort of
so excited.
It's an interesting mix of cooking and law. I don't think there are a whole lot of books that blend cooking and law, but you don't have to be a lawyer. It's written definitely for the non-lawyer to understand, but you learn a lot about her life and why she's such a big deal. And you learn a lot about scallops.
And how was the writing different
For a
memoir versus
very
fiction?
different? And I just went into it blindfolded. I didn't know what I was doing, and I approached it kind of like I would a mystery in it. So, this happens and this happens. And I realized as I got my first edits back on it, you really need a narrative arc, a personal narrative arc for a memoir. And so I had to really think about what the dinner meant for me and how it affected me personally. And, you're not used to putting yourself into a work of fiction. So that was hard for me, but I'm happy with the way it turned out. But that's the main difference, I think.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's go back to your main reason you're at Malice. Sell us on Sally.
Okay, well, it's also about cooking because I love food. I've loved food since I was a little kid. Thank my mother for that. Sally Solari, that's a Sally Solari Mysteries, and she's a fourth generation Italian American whose family first emigrated to Santa Cruz, California, where the books take place and where I live. The fishermen emigrated there in the 1890s, and it's loosely based on the real Italian families that still to this day live in Santa Cruz and are very influential in it. Sally's family owns an old school Italian seafood restaurant out on the historic Fisherman's Wharf in Santa Cruz. And in book 1, her aunt is found murdered in the garde-manger, the cold food preparation area of her restaurant called Gauguin. Her Aunt Letta was sort of the black sheep of the family. She left and traveled the world and worked at Chez Panisse and came back and opened this upscale foodie type place in Santa Cruz. Sally inherits it at the very beginning of book 1, which sets off this conflict within the family because her father, who owns Solari's, he's upset that she no longer wants to work there. And also he kind of feels that she started to look down on their family tradition and become one of those snooty foodie people. And so that's sort of a dynamic that is undercurrent for all 4 of the books. And the 5th one's coming out this August. Because I think it's nice to have some sort of...
And what will that be called?
The book that's coming out this August is called The Fragrance of Death. I'm very excited about it because it's...
That's...
Yeah. That's what? It's an ironic title because in it, on page 1, Sally wakes up having lost her sense of smell. And it's not COVID related. The book takes place before COVID. She has had a vicious sinus infection, which knocks out her sense of smell. And it's based on something that happened to me about 10 years ago. That happened to me. I had a sinus infection. I woke up one morning and I couldn't smell a thing, which meant, of course, I couldn't taste anything. And I was told by my ENT that the nerves may never regenerate. They don't know. It was a terrifying time for me. I love food. And luckily it did come back after about 6 weeks. And so this happens to Sally. She owns and works the line at this restaurant. And so she's horrified by it. And her lack of sense of smell plays into the story. It's set partly on an artichoke farm north of town because I love artichokes and I wanted to put them in. Why not?
Absolutely.
Well, that's a very unique angle.
Yeah.
To
well, I